Today we are going to review the mid game for Lina, with a successful laning phase behind, played by Maybe from Team LGD against Team OG during the group stage of the International. Getting as much of an advantage as Maybe did is not that easy, and you need to be very careful about using it. Both of the LGD side lanes were rather equal, so their mid laner had a good chance to prove himself and carry the game for his team, using his good start as his main tool. So buckle up.